Oh, hi there. We're back again, and this time we are making sourdough focaccia, and the recipe is from the Clever Carrot. I tried to pronounce it right, so I looked it up how to say it.
Focaccia.
Focaccia. Not really close. Anyway, so we're gonna get started. So this morning I probably did like a cup of white flour, and then I did my rye flour, and I did half as much, so half a cup of rye flour, dark rye, and then I just did water and stirred it until it was like a pancake texture. So that's all ready. I had that earlier on. So we're gonna start with a little scale, and I will show you what it looks like. This is it. It's nice and ready. It's all bubbly in there. I'm gonna spill out. So we're gonna start off with this bowl. I put it on the scale, zeroed out. We're gonna do 50 to 75 grams of the sourdough starter, and I always go on the more side. I don't know why, but I just do. So I've got 88 grams, which is more than the 75, but I'm gonna leave it. So now I'm just gonna hit the on button because it clears my scale back to 0. And now you wanna do 375 grams of water. So 375 grams right on the dot. I'm just gonna give that a quick stir. Actually, what I always do, because I do forget, and then once I get this in there with other ingredients, it's like contaminated. So I'm gonna take this, put that much in a clean bowl. That's it. Probably 2 tablespoons. And then I'm gonna add water. And I'm going to add the rye. This is 1/8 of a cup, so it's like a half of an 1/8 of a cup, just to feed it and put it back in the fridge, and then I'll do the full scoop of this. And then we have this ready for next time. I just always try to do this first because I don't want to have to restart my sourdough starter. I haven't had to yet, except for when I moved across the country, and then I had to do it from like the dry scraps that I saved. And if you want to learn that, I could do that too, but it's probably super easy and you can find something on Google for those instructions. But I can always show you if you want. And so once I have that in there, I'm gonna take my clean plate, put it on top, and then I'm gonna pop that in the fridge. All right, so I'm just zeroing out this scale again. So we have 375 of water, and then it calls for 20 grams of honey. I'm not gonna do honey. You can do either maple syrup, or I do organic cane sugar. There's a fructose allergy, so the honey will not sit well. So we're gonna throw in 20 grams of sugar. So got 20, just gonna zero it out again. So 20 grams is done. Now we have 500 grams of flour. I'm just zeroing the scale. And you can do bread flour. I'm just going to do all-purpose white flour for this one. I have done the flour too, just for more protein. I think it's King's Arthur is the one that people like to recommend. So I have done that too. I don't notice too much of a flavor. It's a different texture though when you're mixing the dough, which is interesting, but just sticking with some plain Jane flour. So I have 505 grams of flour. I'm gonna zero that out. Now we're just gonna add the salt. So 9 grams of salt. And we have turned out to be 10 grams. All right, so that is all done. And all you're gonna do, I'm gonna do another one too because I'm making 2 for tomorrow, is you're just gonna stir that for now. So we'll mix it up. Cool, so it's all mixed up. This is what it looks like. I'm actually just gonna take this off the side. And we're gonna let it sit anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. Sometimes I forget about it, so it sits longer, and I'm just going to cover it with a dish towel actually. Just keep the cat out and let that rise for an hour, and then we'll be back. If you hear any noise in the background, that's really annoying. It's this guy, Freddy. Okay, so now we're doing the next step. We are going to take the dough that's in here. It's just hanging out. I think it's been probably an hour. And you're just gonna mix it. So it says you can put it in the bowl, and I'm gonna take mine out of the bowl. Just gonna do it on the counter. And you're gonna let it sit overnight. It says to let it sit for 12 plus hours, but you have to adjust how long you're letting it sit according to like the temperature in your house. So if you're letting it sit overnight like I am, because I fed it first thing this morning, and then once I got the sourdough starter bubbly, and then I just showed you what I did and like mixed it all, it was around 4 o'clock maybe. I think it's like 5:30 right now. So now we're gonna let this sit for 12 hours, it says, but I'm not doing anything like fancy folds or anything. I'm just kind of like keep on folding it and trying to mix it up a little. You're gonna let it sit for the 12.5 hours. It says just to let it double in size basically. So it could be less than 12.5 hours or it could be more. So when we have air conditioning on at nighttime, the house will be set to cooler when we're sleeping. So then you want your house or the temperature for your dough to rise to be around 20 to 21 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. And then if it was cooler, it might take longer to rise. And if it was even warmer, then it'll take a shorter time to rise. So it kind of depends on your house and what your temperature is. And if you just keep an eye on it and you're like, that's doubled, then she's done. So I'm gonna throw this back in the bowl. And since I'm doing 2, I'm gonna mix my second one, but you don't need to watch that. And we're just gonna cover it with a tea towel, and you can do saran wrap if you wanted. And you could put it in your bowl with flour, or you could do it in a bowl with olive oil. And if you put saran wrap, you could always put olive oil on top of that too, so it's touching the dough, or if you put olive oil on your dough. I just always stick with the flour. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Morning, welcome back to day 2 of making the focaccia. So it is 7:40, and this is when I'm getting started on the second rise. So you don't need much for this part. You're gonna have your cooking sheet, your pan, and then you're gonna have olive oil. So we're gonna take the olive oil and pour about 2 tablespoons onto the pan, which is quite a lot, but you need it to be really covered. You don't want like any of the pan to not have olive oil on it, because then the bread's gonna stick really bad. And here comes mischief. No, Freddie. No. Say hi, Freddie. Say bye, Freddie. Okay, I'll be back. I'm gonna go wash my hands and then we'll continue this on. All right, so we're back. We're just gonna cover this whole pan. Like, you wanna get the edges too with olive oil, just to make sure there's no parts that are gonna stick on there. And I'm just gonna do my other pan. So now you're just gonna take your dough, and it should be hopefully doubled in size. So this guy got pretty poofy, and you're just gonna roll her onto the pan. So you put it on there, and you just wanna make sure that your dough is gonna be covered on both sides with the oil. You don't want any of it sticking. So we got it all covered with oil there, we're good. And you're just gonna leave it now. We're gonna let it sit for an hour to an hour and a half, or if you forget, a little bit longer. And then I'll be back to show you the next steps. And when you're letting it sit, just have it covered with either some saran wrap, or some people take a pan and put the pan on top, or you could just do the tea towels again, but they'll get super oily. So I'm probably gonna do saran wrap for this part. The oven is preheating at 425 degrees. So it's been on there for probably 45 minutes. It's been warming up, and I put the pans on top of the oven just to help them rise a little bit more too. So we'll start with one of these. So I covered it with a tea towel, but underneath that I have like this instead of saran wrap, just because saran wrap, this is just environmentally friendlier, I guess. So I can just wash this and reuse it again. No, Freddie. And he's back again. Okay, I'm just gonna wash my hands and we'll get started. So I got my rosemary, because I'm gonna put rosemary on top of the focaccia. And here's what it looks like after it's been, actually it's quite warm. I'm gonna remove the other one. This is what it looks like after it's been rising for, what time is it now? 9:30? 8. So an hour and a half. This is what it looks like. So you can do it for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can see that it is maybe a little bubbly. You can see some bubbles. It's kind of hard to see. So we're just gonna dimple it and spread it out a little. So you're just gonna use your fingertips. You could get them oily, but the bread is pretty oily on top. So I think this will be good enough. And I could also just dab my fingers in the pan because there's lots of oil there. You kind of just want to spread it out. Oh, you can see it. So that it reaches the corners as much as you can. It doesn't have to touch the corners. I'm just trying to spread her out to get there. And then you're gonna add your toppings. So I am doing rosemary, and you're just gonna push it in there. And you can see too, once I start spreading it, the bubbles do form more. So you can see the bubbles there. And you wanna make sure it's kind of anchored in a little bit so that when it cooks, it doesn't pop out. So I just washed the rosemary, sticking her in. And then the other two things that I did were olives and garlic. So these are just olives stuffed with almonds, and then I just cut them into little rounds. And then you're gonna push them in, get them in there, nice and anchored. And then the last thing I did was garlic. And I just cut them right in half. This one's a massive garlic because it's a garden garlic, and this one's from the grocery store. But you can see I left the skins on, so I just split them right in half like that. The side no skin, because there wouldn't be skin down the middle, and this side has the skin. Just for when you're cooking it, because I've done it before where the skin wasn't on that great, and then when you cook it and it's loose or it's not on there, all your garlic can burn a bit. So this protects the garlic from burning. So before you serve the bread for eating, you'll take the skin off. It does get a little tricky because you want to try to push the garlic in so that it doesn't pop off when you are done cooking it and when you cut it. So when you're pushing it in, some of the skin sometimes gets snagged in the dough and cooked in there. So when you're trying to pull the skin off and it's all done, sometimes some of the skin stays in the bread. I've never tried it, but I feel like sun-dried tomatoes could be really good on there. I don't know if those would burn or not. Okay, so here is what it looks like when it's all covered with the ingredients. I'm gonna go pop it in the oven for 25 minutes and then we'll check on it. And I'm gonna do the other bread off screen so you don't have to watch, and I'm gonna throw it in there with it too. So here you go. Set the timer for 25 minutes. And then we'll be back to check on it when it's done. Thought I'd give you all a little sneak peek to see how it's going. So it's been in there for, I can't do math, hold on. So it's been in there for almost 15 minutes, and we'll check out what it looks like so far. Pretty mint. You can see how huge it's rising too. And every time I do this, the cat wants to hop in the oven. So I ended up only putting it in there for 25 minutes. If I had to redo one thing, I had the wire rack in the middle of the oven. I probably would have put it up one, just because then I feel like the top needed to be maybe a little bit more cooked, and the bottom is, that's the cat, and the bottom's already completely done. So I'm just gonna show you what they turned out to look like. Here's the one. And then we're gonna grab this guy and we're gonna cut it up. So here's this guy, just put it on there. I peeled the garlic off the top of that one. I don't know, sometimes people like to watch random parts of videos that I don't think they do, so good on you, lasagna. I'll just peel them off for you. So these are just the tops of the garlic. They come off fairly easy. And the cat's back on the counter again, so let me remove the cat and I'm gonna go wash my hands and I'll be back. All right, so we're back again. I'm just peeling off the rest of the garlic tops. For the most part, these ones are coming off really easy. It's just there's some little pieces that are stuck in there, or then the whole entire garlic comes out because I didn't push it in hard enough. That's okay. We'll just sit on the top there instead. And they also kind of fall out too when I cut them sometimes, so we'll see what happens with that. So I'm just gonna remove the bread. Just gonna use this guy. I do have spatulas, but they're plastic, so I don't really use those much anymore. So we're just using a wooden spatula thing. Lift her up, move her over. And this is our pizza cutter, which is our favorite thing. Most satisfying noise if you like to listen to sounds when you take this off. I don't know why, it gets me every time. So I'm just gonna use this pizza cutter. The best one ever. It's like Pampered Chef, I believe. Yeah. I'm just gonna cut this. And it smells so good once that garlic's cooked. I did a terrible job cutting. I didn't do it very even. I'm not a mathematical person, so it's a pretty bad job. We got some massive pieces and some teeny tiny pieces. So it's just steaming, and there you can see the crumb there. Nice and bubbly. We'll grab one of these tiny guys. It smells so good. But check out the bottom. It's not terrible. And it actually, I find with this, any sourdough stuff I do for the most part, like with the bread I make, and then with this, it generally looks pretty burnt, but when you taste it, it doesn't taste burnt. And I've asked other people too, so it's not just me. And I'm just gonna put this back on the pan to bring it over to my friend's house. And then I'm gonna cut the other one off screen because you probably don't wanna see that. And that is it. Thanks for watching.